Hello and welcome to Sideline Story, your destination for sports news, analysis and discussions. I'm Yang Guang. This week we take a look at the new season of the English Premier League. Who are the biggest title contenders? Which team made the best business in the summer? For this chat, I'm joined here with my fantastic co-hosts Tian Yu and Brandon Yates. All right, the European football is finally back.
Yeah.
Fans have waited for months and our joy now returns. First of all, the English Premier League. We have seen some action so far. Defending champion Liverpool beat Bournemouth in their season opener to guide them to a good start to the new campaign. There are a lot of changes to Liverpool's squad this summer. The replace of their attacking trio with Florian Wirtz behind them. So, Tian Yu, with this new squad, do you think Liverpool can be the dominant force once again in the Premier League this season? And who are their real challengers?
Yeah, I think they definitely have the potential because, just look at the transfer window. It's probably the most expensive summer Liverpool's ever had in a long time, I would say, because they spent over 120 million euros on Florian Wirtz, over 90 on Hugo Ekitike, and 40 on Jeremy Frimpong, plus a couple of other smart additions. So yeah, basically they've refreshed almost every area of the team. After watching the opening game, I mean, some fans might be a little bit, underwhelmed with Wirtz so far because, I mean, he's the most expensive signing they've made in years, and yet he hasn't exactly set the league on fire yet. But honestly, I think it's just a matter of time because the Premier League is a different league. It has a crazy tempo, and I think Wirtz needs time to settle in. I mean, build chemistry with his teammates. And what I did like is his attitude. I mean, he's running on both ends. He's chasing back, pressing, trying to make combinations with his teammates. So if I were a Liverpool fan, I wouldn't worry about his prospects in the team. With guys like Ekitike and Frimpong, I think they're already feeling like perfect fits for Arne Slot systems because they know how to use their physicality, find dangerous spots, and really stretch defenses. So yeah, I think all these signings should make Liverpool even stronger than last season. And when it comes to challenges, I think Man City has to be top of the list because, that big win on opening day feel like, a statement saying, the dominant Man City is back.
We are back.
Yeah, we are back.
Like Terminator.
Yeah. And, they've added some, new faces like Ryan Anders and Cherki, who have been really instrumental since their debut. And, Erling Haaland looks like he's, back in full beast mode. So, yeah, I think City is very much in the conversation again. And apart from them, I would say I would keep an eye on United. Even though they just...
Really?
Even though they just lost to Arsenal, I mean, doubt aside, but compared to last year, you can already see improvement in how they're playing. Of course, another challenger, Chelsea. You can't ignore the new world champions. I mean, beating PSG in that final, and not just beating them, but also outclassing them. That was huge. I mean, their new signing, Joe Pedro, he has been really sharp up front. And with guys like Cole Palmer, Enzo Fernandez, and Caicedo, they're controlling the midfield. They've got a really serious squad right now. So, yeah, I think that I would definitely count them as one of Liverpool's main challenges as well.
Right. Brandon, how about your choices? Who can stop Liverpool's title defense this season?
Definitely not Manchester United. I find it interesting that Tian Yu has a lot more optimism about Manchester United's chances this season than I do. But yeah, look, Liverpool are looking really strong. I think, look, it's only been one game so far that at least that we've witnessed. And I mean, besides preseason and that sort of thing. But I think the additions that Liverpool have brought in will definitely strengthen them. I mean, I think, Frimpong for Trent Alexander-Arnold, I think is going to be a great move. And I think, obviously Trent is a unique sort of player, but I think, in terms of an immediate kind of stopgap fix, immediately replacement. I think Frimpong is a great addition. I think Wirtz is going to offer something very unique to Liverpool, just in terms of midfield dominance and creativity going forward to, open up channels for the likes of Mo Salah in particular. Ekitike also looks like an interesting player that seems to have a lot of confidence and the ability to kind of feed off scraps and kind of create something out of nothing, which is also, pretty interesting and offers Liverpool a sort of unique dynamic. And of course, there's the ongoing, transfer saga between Alexander Isak and Liverpool and Newcastle United. I think if Liverpool are able to
Yeah.
get their hands on Alexander Isak, I think that's going to be massive for them as well. I think that if he gets added to their attacking lineup, the variety that they will have up front and in midfield is pretty daunting, for the rest of the league. So I think Liverpool are still definitely the out and out favorites, but I also definitely think that, some of the challenges that they had from last season have definitely improved. I mean, Arsenal, for example, have brought in Gyökeres. I know Gyökeres had a very sort of underwhelming, to say the least, performance against Manchester United. But I think that, again, the variety that he brings to the Arsenal squad, along with Subamendi and, Madueke, to the already pretty lethal attacking and midfield threats that Arsenal have. I think Arsenal are also looking, really strong. And Tianyu already mentioned Reinders at City. He isn't someone that I guess that's, the three of us would have been particularly familiar with, because I don't think any of us, watch much of the Serie A. So when he came in, he was a relatively unknown kind of entity in the Premier League, but he really does seem to be, again, someone that has come into, arguably the most difficult league in the world, and seems to have taken it by storm. And I'm always impressed with players that don't come with a major price tag or a major reputation and just seem to kind of take the reins and kind of, play at their absolute peak and with high levels of confidence from day one. And he seems to have done that. Those roaming runs that he provides from midfield and the shots that he takes and the assists that he provides and some of the tricks and flicks that he's already shown, and the celebrations with his teammates, and he just seems to be running with his chest out. He a lot of players, when they sign for a new massive club, they kind of like go into their shell and they kind of test the waters and they don't look very certain of themselves. And Reinders does not seem to have a confidence issue. So I think he's been an exciting addition to the City squad, and it seems like the rest of the team really have really taken him under their wing already. So he looks like he's going to be a catalyst to potentially bringing confidence back to the Manchester City squad, which is something they seem to really lack last season. And I think it's going to be very important, especially with the departure of long-serving stalwarts like Kevin De Bruyne, for example. But yeah, in terms of the top of the table, I think our eyes definitely have to be glued onto, of course, Liverpool. But I think, again, Arsenal and City will be challenges, but I think there will be even stronger challenges this season. And if there is going to be a surprise package, I agree with Tianyu as well. I think Chelsea might also bring in some interesting dynamics, especially if they, unfortunately, as a United fan, get their hands on Garnacho.
Right, I agree. Liverpool looks more intact based on Arne Slot's game ethos. I mean, letting go of Darwin Núñez and Luis Diaz and introducing Ekitike to the squad definitely makes Liverpool's squad, their attack, more threatening and efficient. If we take a look at Ekitike's finishing capability and compared with Darwin Núñez. And Florian Wirtz is a perfect playmaker, linking up the midfield and the front line. And on the back, 22-year-old Frimpong and 20-year-old Gyökeres definitely are more energetic. The only problem with Liverpool to me is it seems like they are a little bit thin on the bench, especially in front. I mean, their only realistic substitutes for the attacking trio is Chiesa, who is a doubt with his health status. And Diogo Jota's car accident really caught Liverpool off guard with their summer plan. So there's a question mark about their consistency throughout the multi-competition season with this squad depth. I definitely think they need another signing, but the problem is that they have spent so much this summer, so that is the paradox there. But talking about summer signings, Premier League giants have made big moves already to improve their squads. Across different signings, Tianyu, which do you think is the most successful so far in the Premier League from the summer transfer window?
So yeah, I think after the first round of games, I would say the one that really caught my eyes was Ryan Dis at Man City, I have to say. I mean, 1 goal and 2 assists on debut. That was like the perfect first impression you could ever make. So what stood out even more was how complete he looked. I mean, dribbling, shooting, passing, popping up everywhere he could show up. So I think a lot of City fans are already saying that he's got that Kevin De Bruyne vibe. I mean, honestly, I can see it too. So yeah, if he keeps playing like this throughout the season, I think that's going to go down as one of the smartest signings of this summer. But if we're talking about who really won the transfer window overall, I would still go with Liverpool.
Yeah, they really upgraded their squad to another level.
Yes.
Brandon, how about your choices? Which signing do you think is the best in the Premier League from the last transfer market?
Well, just looking at Liverpool, Tianyu, I agree. They've done incredibly well financially, and it looks like they've, brought in more money than they've sent out. But it looks like all of that money that they've brought in, they could potentially be spending on Alexander Isak, which I think is going to be an incredibly bold move for them, considering, like Yang Guang mentioned, a bit of the lack of squad depth, which has never really been a problem for Liverpool in the past. If anything, they normally had too many attackers or too many midfielders, whereas now it looks like they've got an incredibly strong starting 11. And then when it gets to the when it gets to the bench situation, it could be looking a little bit thin. And then if Alexander Isak comes in, they're going to really need to start, have him firing from the get-go. So, I mean, it remains to be seen what happens there. But if they spend all of that money on Isak, I think that's a big risk, especially when defensively they look a bit frail. And I think all of the Premier League giants actually at the moment, including Arsenal, have a bit more cover in their defensive reinforcements. And then again, Manchester United, I think, are also looking defensively frail. If I had to pick out one standout signing, I still think, all of the standout signings for me so far, I think, have underwhelmed in their first game. I think, Gyökeres, Benjamin Sesko, and Florian Wirtz are probably the 3 standout, headline-grabbing signings for me in this transfer window. And of course, as a Manchester United fan, I think the signing of Benjamin Sesko is probably the most exciting. I mean, Mateus Cunha also, to a certain extent. I love the way that he's kind of like a maverick kind of footballer and picks up the ball from midfield and drives forward. I think United have needed that sort of attacking midfield force, that can kind of create something out of nothing for quite some time to support Bruno Fernandes. But I think in terms of the immediate and long term, I think Sesko is an incredibly exciting prospect, and I think Arsenal should be equally excited about Gyökeres. But I think for Liverpool, I think if Florian Wirtz is able to perform at his highest level and develop to the heights that he is predicted to get to, I think he could be, one of the best players in the Premier League and potentially one of the best attacking midfielders in the world.
Right. I don't know which signing was the best in this summer, but I have this sense that Arsenal signing Viktor Gyökeres could potentially be the worst signing. Fans counted no shots from him in his first game against Man United, but 27 touches of his hair.
Yeah, beautiful hair.
Yeah. There are too few examples to look into his game influence yet. So maybe as the season progresses, he will shut everyone's mouth with his impact to Arsenal's ability. We will see about that. Yeah. But before we move on, here's a quick review of the biggest sports headlines in China and around the world for the past week. Australia clinched its 3rd straight FIBA Asia Cup title after squeaking past Team China 90-89 in the final in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. Trailing by 1 point, China had the chance to snatch a win with 3.9 seconds left, but Hu Mingxuan's shot was off target. China coach Guo Shiqiang.
First of all, we are a new national team full of youngsters. Only 3 players have competed in the previous editions of the Asia Cup. The others lack experiences, but our coaching staff will give instructions to these young players. We emphasize they should keep a good state of mind before each game. Every time we won a game, I told them they should stay calm and stick to the training. Every player on our team did a good job during the competition.
Australia has never lost a game since debuting in the Asia Cup in 2017. The 12th edition of the World Games closed in Chengdu, southwest China's Sichuan province. The games, featuring 34 sports, ran from August 7th to 17th under the slogan "Boundless Sports, Countless Wonders." China has achieved its best ever performance at the Games, topping both the gold and overall medal tables for the first time. The Games drew unprecedented participation with over 6,600 athletes, team officials, and technical officials from 116 countries and regions. Carlos Alcaraz won the ATP Cincinnati Open men's singles title in a little more than 20 minutes after top-ranked Yannick Sinner was forced to retire because of illness during the first set.
Obviously, it's not the way that I wanted to win the final. First of all, I just wanted to wish Yannick a speed recovery. Hopefully, in a few days he's gonna be okay to prepare and practice well to the US Open and playing at such a great tennis. But for myself, I'm just really happy to be able to leave the trophy. Since I just lost that final in 2023, I just wanted really badly this trophy.
Meeting in the final for the 4th time this year and first since Wimbledon, Sinner fell behind 5-love in the first set with 9 unforced errors. He was seen with an ice pack on his head during the break and retired after playing just 22 minutes. While number 3 Iga Swiatek captured the women's singles title by defeating number 7 Jasmine Paolini 7-5, 6-4. Liverpool forward Mohamed Salah was named the Professional Footballers Association Player of the Year, with the Egyptian becoming the first player to win the award 3 times. Salah was the Premier League's top scorer last season with his 29 goals along with 18 assists, playing a key role in the club winning the league title. Welcome back. One of the big giants that made a splash in the summer transfer window must be Manchester United. Yeah. They added Benjamin Sesko, Brian Mbeumo, and Matheus Cunha to their front line. After years of trials and errors, it seems like they have finally acquired the right players. Brandon, as a United fan, are you optimistic about the Red Devils' revival with this squad under Ruben Amorim?
Yeah, I am. I think it's still quite a long way off in terms of top 4 ambitions or challenging for the Premier League. But I don't think it would take much to improve from last season. Last season, particularly in the Premier League alone, was an absolute disaster. I've already touched on Matheus Cunha. He is the type of player that I think we've lacked for a long time. We've often had a couple of midfielders that, are quite classy on the ball and are quite good with their 1-2 touches and are, relatively good at passing, but are kind of passive and often disconnected from the front line. Look, we haven't had the best ball-playing defenders for quite some time. Harry Maguire can basically just header. That's the only thing that he seems to be able to do. And, we've had, Luke Shaw has had his injury concerns, and I think centre-back has been a huge issue. Of course, Lenny Yoro has been out in and out of the team, and so has Heaven. But we've needed a midfielder that can kind of pick up the ball, drive forward, and lift up the team when we have the ball but aren't really doing much with it. And Matheus Cunha is definitely a player that can do that. He can link with the attackers in the midfield, and he also is very creative and good on the ball, and has passing abilities, and is just an out and out impressive creative midfielder. But we haven't had someone that can lift the team and kind of create something out of nothing, like I mentioned earlier. And Matheus Cunha is definitely someone that can do that. Mbeumo, I haven't seen the best of yet, but he seems to be someone that can add, an interesting dynamic to our attacking trio, especially if we're going to, unfortunately, lose Alejandro Garnacho. Look, I know that a lot has been reported about Garnacho's relationship with Amorim, and apparently he has been a problem in the dressing room and has had disagreements with Amorim, and Amorim reportedly said he will never play for Manchester United again. So I think, if that has been said and the club is backing Amorim, then unfortunately Garnacho has to go. And I think Mbeumo offers something relatively similar to Garnacho, I suppose. The most exciting signing in terms of rejuvenation and potentially building to a top four and title challenge in the next 5 to 10 years. I think Benjamin Sesko is definitely the most addition to that, exciting addition to that revival. 22 years old, seems to be a lethal finisher with his left and right foot. Is tall, is able to head the ball. He's quick, he's strong. I mean, look, we said the same about Rasmus Højlund. We said the same about Højlund when he signed for United for 70 odd million pounds or whatever it was, and he seems to be being shipped off on loan from Manchester United to potentially the Serie A. So hopefully he doesn't disappoint the same way Højlund did. Although I wish Højlund had been given more time to impress at Manchester United, but his time seems to be up at Manchester United, at least for the short term. But yeah, Sesko, on paper and as a prospect, looks incredibly exciting for Manchester United's revival. I definitely still think we need a new goalkeeper, because I think Onana is definitely not going to be the keeper to lead United forward. And it seems like we're going to miss out on Donnarumma, but they're looking at one or two other options. We definitely still need another centre-back to partner Lenny Yoro going into the future. And I think we need another defensive midfielder, especially as Casemiro continues to get older. And I think Cunha will also, and Fernandes will need support. And it looks like we're trying very hard to get Carlos Baliba from Brighton, but I think the £100 million supposed price tag is a bit too much for United, at least in this transfer window. So that might be someone that we miss out on, at least for now. So I think there's still work to be done at United, particularly through the spine, like I always mention, the keeper, the out and out centre back, midfield and attack. But I think the addition of Sesko is a great start to strengthening that spine for the future. I don't think he's going to have a massive impact immediately, but I think that there is huge potential there for the future. So I think we will definitely improve from last season, but to mount any sort of top four, even, remote title challenge, I think there's still a lot of work that needs to be done, particularly in the midfield and the defense and the goalkeeping department. So yeah, things are looking promising for United, but I still think we're very far away from a top four finish.
Right. Ruben Amorim, if he had executed his last season when he took charge, he didn't really quite have the players he wished for. But after some demands being met now, after the transfer market, do you think he can generate some magic in his first full season with the team?
Yeah, I would say so. I would say there's definitely reason to be optimistic here, because even though in the opening game they lost to Arsenal due to a set piece,
and a controversial set piece.
Yeah, it's a little bit controversial. But still, I think things feel like it's a very different Man United team from last year. And because the stats tell the story. I mean, over 60% of ball possession, 22 shots with 7 on target. That shows how much more energy and vitality they have got. And a lot of that comes down to their new signings. Of course, there are still question marks. In the opening game, Bruno Fernandes, he had to drop very deep in the game with Mason Mount coming in. And you can tell he's a little bit... he's not fully comfortable with that position. That's something I would say Ruben Amorim needs to figure out, which is how to get the best of both of them when they're both on the pitch.
Okay. Now let's switch to United's arch rival, Manchester City. City didn't take the usual role in the transfer market compared to what they did in the past, like signing Gyökeres with £100 million, who, by the way, has made a lower move to Everton already. Quite opposite, we saw some high-profile departures from City this season. Pep Guardiola endured some crisis, or at least a low point with City last season. So can he overturn this momentum is yet to be seen. But my question here might be sharper, Brandon. If Man City fails once again in the Premier League title hunt, would that mean Pep Guardiola will leave City after this season? What do you think?
I'm not sure. I think if I recall correctly, Pep Guardiola has said in the media in the last couple of months that he isn't planning to resume management after the Manchester City bout. I think he is planning a break. So I think he is going to give absolutely everything to Manchester United, to Manchester City, to ensure that they really do. I hope he gives everything to Manchester United and lets us win everything. That would be nice. No, but I think he will give everything to City to kind of reboot their dominance in the Premier League and at least give Liverpool a challenge this season. But will he be out if he doesn't win the Premier League this season? Look, I think if there is as big of a points gap between Liverpool and Arsenal as they have been in the past, or if they go on an incredibly disappointing run, like they did at some points in the last season where they lost, I don't know how many games in a row. If something disastrous ends up happening like that, especially early on in the season, and they are kind of mid-table, halfway into the season, I think there could be some problems there. But I think if they're in and around the title challenge and they really do, give Arsenal and Liverpool a real push for the title, would that immediately signal his exit? I'm not entirely certain. I have a feeling that because with what he's already achieved with Manchester City in terms of all of the Premier League titles, their first Champions League victory, everything that he's already accomplished with that team, I kind of have this notion that what happens with his future at Manchester City will ultimately come down to Pep Guardiola. I find it very hard to imagine that he will be sacked, like a regular manager in the Premier League. I don't really see that happening for him at Manchester City. And if it did, I mean, who would they replace him with? There aren't too many world-class managers available at the moment. So I think Manchester City definitely need to have their eye on the future, and I'm sure they are already kind of making plans behind the scenes about how to deal with the post-Pep Guardiola era, which I think for any club is incredibly difficult. I think it was difficult for Barca, I think it was difficult for Bayern, and I think it's going to be particularly difficult for Manchester City just because of the ethos that he's brought into the team, the playing style. I actually think that there's a better chance of Pep Guardiola leaving if Manchester City win the Premier League or the Champions League this season, because I'm sure if he does want to leave Manchester City, he'll want to leave on a high. So, look, I think Pep Guardiola probably doesn't have more than 3 or 4 seasons left at Manchester City at the most, but I don't foresee him being sacked. I don't think that he will leave this season unless there's an absolute massive disaster that happens, which I don't foresee happening. And I think the greatest odds of him leaving are if City lift the Premier League title once again or the Champions League.
All right. Let's see how the Premier League title race will be unpacked this season and how the new signings will make an impact to their new teams. With that, we end this episode of Sideline Story. Thank you so much for joining us. Subscribe to Sideline Story and leave your comments wherever you listen to podcasts. For more information, you can also check our website at radio.cgtn.com. Until next time, stay on the sidelines with us.